Hello, cosmic friends. This is Interstellar Chats. I'm your host, Carlene Saelg, and I have here with me
Kristin Anderson
and
James.
Hi, James. Hi, Kristin. We're just diving in today with something a little off the beaten path of what we typically talk about. We're going to show you a piece of art and have a discussion. What do you think about that?
Or is it off the beaten path?
Right. That's right.
Let's see. Okay, so this is the piece of artwork. Let me see if you guys, whoa. Let's see if you guys can see it. It looks like this. It's from Mexico. Is that, what did we say? That's Mayan?
Aztec.
Aztec.
Or that's what you said. So Aztec.
Very cool.
Yeah, so there it is. And I've been trying to figure out what exactly, trying to get a good spot here there. What exactly is it and what does it mean, right? There's a lot of little symbols all around the outside.
Around the frame of it.
And then there's this guy doing something. I'm not sure what he's doing.
In the middle.
And then there's what looks like these bones down on the bottom. Anyway, this whole thing. So I had a conversation with my dad. I was asking him really, yeah, I was asking him really if he wanted it, because it's painted on suede and it's really quite beautiful. It's more beautiful than it looks like in this video. And I said, what do you think it is? Somebody told me it's a birth chart, but I don't know. And he proceeded to do this. But I'm like, I gotta cover Carlene. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
This.
The glare is
and
weird.
what is it now? What does it look like now?
Huh.
And I'm just going to show this to you, and that we're going to talk about it over here. What do you see now?
Well, now it's a completely different perspective.
Do you see it? And this is my dad. He's like, well, clearly he's riding inside of a ship.
Clearly.
He's sitting on the ship. He's working the controls here. He's got the windshield. And this is a slice of the ship because it's two-dimensional. This outside is what you would see. This is how you're traveling through. All these pieces are slices of what you're traveling through, almost like a time travel.
Oh yeah, I see that actually.
Okay.
Right?
Since when do I need to have something explained to me like this? But
that's why I was trying to get him over here to tell us, but I was like, whoa.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I gotta move it this way. Let's see. It's hard with the camera.
I know.
Do you see him on his ship?
I do actually. Yeah, it's very
And
cool.
this is like, wait, over here is like this swirling. Oh my God, I'm gonna poke you. I'm sorry. It's like a swirling something. That's like the swirling vortex of something.
I see all sorts of different things in it. I see serpent.
Yes.
In it, and when you had it the other way, I could see like I believe a couple of Hindu symbols. It looked like it made
This way.
And also,
This also looks like a skull to me.
It does. So very interesting though, right? So this was apparently copied from a wall on one of the structures in this specific town. It's actually written on the back of it, and I can't remember the name of it right now. And
this
I don't want to frame it.
Painted onto suede.
It's painted onto suede.
Huh.
And all the little creatures that are around here, and there's all these faces. It's very, very interesting piece. And I was going to get rid of it and give it away. But I have since changed my mind because it's so unique and intricate. And I absolutely love this. So what if they had these means of travel back then.
No, they
Oh,
did.
sure.
Like that, right?
James is like, of course.
Right? And that this is just a depiction of that, like a slice of that. He's like, that's just a slice of the ship
Wow.
that he was in.
Your
So
dad is
cool.
ahead of his time.
Right?
He's like, don't you see it?
Don't you see it? It's a ship. Right? I was like, I wish he would come on, but he wasn't gonna do it. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Galactic, you know.
Very galactic, right? Very
I just
interstellar.
like that whole perspective, though. Just the perspective that that's a slice, because it's like kind of just seems like the way that time seems to be is in cells, like individual cells, and so there's a whole bunch of different cells that equal our time.
True.
I don't know.
Yeah, and to try to attempt to draw such a dynamic experience and make it flat. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I totally see it. It's so cool.
Yeah, I think I've had it hung the wrong way for a long time.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think you should get rid of it. I think
No.
it's probably
Mhm.
actually it's probably worth something.
It's probably worth something.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know
I
what.
think Google, Mr. Google, can tell you how much it is worth. Actually, I think you
Right.
can do something where it takes a picture and it brings up all different images of,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, and it gives you the value and stuff like that. So,
The benefits of AI.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's just an interesting
And hopefully it's
little
not
piece.
stolen from somebody's art collection.
Right?
Not saying that your family stole anything.
No, my grandmother was a traveler. She traveled a lot, and one of her favorite places was Egypt. But she was very known to go to all the ruins, you know, and buy like little trinkets and art off the street and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So this
Awesome.
is probably somebody's art from the street.
In Mexico, probably.
Yeah, yeah, in Mexico. She often went to Mexico and Egypt. Those are her two places.
And who knows, maybe that's not Mexico. Does it say it's from Mexico?
It names a town in
It
Mexico.
does, okay, okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
where there are ruins.
Mm-hmm. There's lots.
There's a lot.
There is a
Yeah.
lot.
So this is just from one of the walls, I guess, copied. Now that I don't know, that's just a guess. It could just be a drawing that somebody did, but I don't know, because it does have these corners. Let's see, these corners are cut off here.
They're drawn like that, right?
Yeah, but these corners are not cut, but these
Oh.
are cut.
That's
So it's
interesting.
almost like it's broken or copied from something that was broken.
Mhm.
That's so cool.
It is very cool. It was a fun little piece of art, but I thought it would be fun to check it out for our galactic friends. Because do you recognize this vehicle? Is
Maybe
it
it's
yours?
a Merkaba, or maybe it's a full-on spaceship.
Yeah,
It could
I
be his
mean,
personal
it
vehicle.
could be part of a Merkaba. And,
Yeah,
and
like-
if it was like that, you know, it was hanging like that.
It's phasing in the ship,
Yeah,
phasing into reality.
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. Anyway,
Okay,
we could
awesome.
we could talk about Merkabas and ways of travel.
Yeah.
Because I have a fun story about that.
Oh, well, let's hear it. So first tell us what a Merkaba is. Lots of us know and lots of us don't, so.
Okay, so you've heard this story before, right? The Merkaba story?
Your Merkaba story?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So the Merkaba is, well, it's a sacred geometry, right? Consisting of double pyramids. So there's a pyramid this way, and then there's a pyramid this way. If you flatten it out, it looks like the Star of David, which we've all seen, right? But if you pop it out into 3D and spin it, the top pyramid going this way and the bottom pyramid going this way, that creates the Merkaba vortex, if you will, right?
Yes.
The opposite forces open up a wormhole in which you can travel,
Oh, absolutely.
right? So
Yeah.
when I was giving birth, I left my body and went to the gates of life through a golden wormhole tunnel that was spectacular. And when I got back, I started telling everybody this story. Oh my God, I was in the golden tunnel of light. I went to the gates of life to pick up my child. There were beings there, and at the gold, it was just this golden tunnel. And I just was talking about this golden tunnel to everybody who would listen. And everyone's like, okay, that's nice. Well, I had an epidural, or I had a C-section. Oh, they put me out. And I'm thinking, what? Why would you ever do that? Because this is like amazing, right? So I'm still telling about this tunnel, and it looked like oppositely rotating star pattern. It was not symmetrical like a mandala. It was kind of jagged and rough and swirling and doing this and doing this, right? Total wormhole that you'd see in a sci-fi movie. So I'm telling you, this is like, well, 12 years ago, almost 13 years ago. And I was telling my brother this, trying to describe this. And he was like, oh, Kristin, that's sacred geometry. Look it up. And I was like, what is sacred geometry? Like, I had no idea. He's a Waldorf teacher. He teaches math, and that's how they teach math, through sacred geometry. So I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's it. That was it. How have I not heard of this sacred geometry, right?
All the things that they've kept from us, they being the powers that were all about control and programming and mind control especially, and not allowing us to know the full capabilities of our consciousness and our abilities as a human being. So these
Right.
things were kept from us until you had this profound experience of birth. Did you find out there was even such a thing called sacred geometry?
And then when you look into sacred geometry, you just realize this is the matrix of the world that we live in. That's how everything is formed and everything is made. And then it just made perfect sense. Then I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And then I started,
There's order.
yeah,
There's order to,
it's mathematical order.
right?
Yeah, geometric. Yes.
And beautiful,
It's
in its
so
order.
beautiful.
right?
Yes.
So, and this is really important for us to make a distinction right here. When we had those negative entities who came into our planet and disrupted the frequency, they literally created chaos. And what is chaos? Chaos is when you have an explosion or a total disruption of the order, the natural order of what something is supposed to be. And that is what happened to us, our physical beings, our consciousness, our systems that we were navigating through life with, meaning school, government, on all different levels, from local governments to, your country that you reside in, to global politics and all of that, as well as the way we were taught to, once you get out of school, you're going to go into this profession, you're going to sit in a cubicle, you're going to work your way up, you're going to, wake up every morning, go there, be there by 8, go home at 6, all the things.
You will not be traveling by Merkaba.
Right. So we were literally switched off, and we were, what is the word? I mean, we were against our will. We were thrown into this chaotic state that really had zero order to it, no order at all, no beauty, no love, no bliss, nothing of the higher frequencies that allowed us to live as a cohesive, loving being, right? So we were always in this state of fear and lack and all the things that are not so pleasant to be around, right? And you always feeling a little out of sorts, right? So this is a perfect segue to talk about the order of things and the flower of life, the tree of life, the Merkaba, all the mandalas that you're talking about, when you
Yes.
see this in nature, in every living thing, there is order and beauty, and it's, you know, mathematically.
All of the, you know, there's the platonic solids, which make up the sacred geometry, like the base. I guess they're the bases, like a cell or a nucleus in the cell would be the basis of life, right? So the platonic solids are the basis of all creation, and they are the different shapes of geometry. And when you pack them all together, they fit one inside the other, it creates the flower of life. And when you spin that and start it moving, because it's not the way that we see it here in 3D or 2D, even written on a piece of paper, it's a higher multi-dimensional experience of being inside of this, you know, the wormhole tunnel is the matrix of the world. And if you can make it in there, I mean, wow, it's just such a beautiful experience, life-changing, because you realize that everything you've been taught on this planet has been a fucking lie. And then you're like, wait a minute, that is real.
And you know, this is where we get into some of the things that I teach about, that Kristin teaches about, and that James talks about on a daily basis, of really ascending into this person, this galactic being is what I like to call it, a galactic human instead of a human of Terra or Gaia or Earth, right? Because you were living in these limited beliefs, and now when we crack open and notice there's all these other ways that we can be living as a multi-dimensional galactic being, we then can access our Merkaba and all of the different ways that we can create energy, because we are creator beings.
I just think it's so cool how the Merkaba has even come into my own consciousness, just thinking or talking about the Merkaba. And sacred geometry in general, just, I mean, it just doesn't come up that much to talk about. But for me, the Merkaba has been in my thought process for several years now. And it's basically the two triangles, like you said, inverted, and they call it the Star of David. And it's I wear one. I've worn one for years, and this is a Merkaba right here, and it has it's cut for there to be triangles going like this. So when it hangs, they're cut where you see a star coming through the crystal, and it's protection. And I also heard in a video someplace where they were basically saying that they think that God is represented, or basically looks like a tetrahedron, is a triangle, and a triangle, and there's everything is made of tetrahedrons. You know, our brains are filled with little triangles. Everything is made of triangles. So it blows my mind to think about.
And I also have that same Vogel crystal, and it's more than protection, right? We can heal with it, we can travel with it, we can do so many things with our intention and our consciousness.
Yeah.
So beyond that, when you were just talking about the crystal, I mean the triangles, it brought up to my attention about the record keeper crystals that have in them the triangles. So when you why don't you tell us more about that, James? Because I know you've got several record keepers.
Well, so for me, when I meditate with my record keeper crystals, I literally see triangles. I don't really know what it means. I haven't quite deciphered how to read anything from a record keeper, but I do see visually triangles. And when I got my Merkaba, I also, when I was meditating with it, I can see the triangles too, but it's different. And so I have a record keeper that's a fluorite, and the triangles that I see with that one are different from the record keeper that I have that is lodolite. So it's just very interesting, and I'd love to meditate with it, and I really get a lot out of it. And I feel like it's something I'm figuring out.
So with them being record keepers, they literally do hold wisdom, technology, information, and you don't even necessarily need to know it with your brain, right? Your consciousness is just getting that imprint or that information.
Well, they're also very programmable. So you can give your information, you can store your story or what you want to pass down in your record keeper crystals. So you program your crystal.
That
And
is
also
amazing.
those record keeper crystals can help connect you to the Akashic field and the Akashic record.
I have a
So-
question. What, how do you know if you have a record keeper?
Well, usually you can see them. Most of the time it's either a raised triangle or an impression of a triangle, or it can even be like a phantom triangle. So it's a tetrahedron. I don't have an example at my hand here. But
typically they're inside the matrix of the crystal, correct?
and a lot of them you can look up. It's called when there's just tons and tons and tons of triangles in it. It's trigonics, I believe it's what it's called. And so you can look up that / record keeper, and they have just tons and tons and tons of triangles in it. And then you realize that the whole structure of the crystal is really consisting of triangles. And so they're just filled with it.
I have a large smoky quartz that is a record keeper.
Oh, okay,
And
I see.
yeah, can you see them inside of those images? So do a quick Google search, family, cosmic friends, and see what a record keeper is for yourself. You probably have some in your own rock collection, in your crystal collection. Hopefully you know you have them, and if you don't, just take a look and see. You might be surprised at what you find.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some of them are really strong and some of them are more subtle.
And they're not always, like James was saying, they're not always like carved into it, like on the surface, but they're inside the actual matrix,
Right.
as an inclusion or a phantom, like you said. And they're just, sometimes you can feel them on the outside, but then also know, right, I have to bring this up, that some people, because they know that what record keepers are, they're putting them on there. So carving them into the stone. So be aware, use your intuition, use your discernment to know whether or not you have a real deal record keeper. And you'll know if you get quiet and you hold it, you'll know.
I meditated once with a friend of mine who had this ginormous Lumerian crystal. I'm guessing it was a record keeper. It was like a small baby.
Wow.
Maybe a big baby. It was like a 10-pound baby. It was pretty large. And, she was like, hold it like a baby. And I don't know that there was another way to hold it. It was big. And we sat there in meditation, but I was able to access a few past lives in that session of meditation.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
I believe that because when you did that motion, like I connected to that energy and I felt it. So I
Right.
felt the crystal that you were just describing.
Yeah.
And that is telling me that it was definitely a record keeper.
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Excellent.
Very cool.
One of my friends,
Yeah. So
One
like
of- one of my friends has a huge crystal. I mean, it is enormous, and you just wrap your arms around it and hug it. It's so incredible. But it was in the guest bedroom, and I really could never sleep in there because the energy was just like,
So
I
powerful.
wasn't tired either the next day, but I couldn't sleep because the energy was just like so much.
interesting.
Yes.
That makes me wonder if this guy isn't, maybe this is a big crystal
Could be.
in the center of his ship here.
The generator, right?
Maybe.
Generating power.
Or maybe
Absolutely.
he's psychically traveling by crystal.
We could go down.
We don't know.
All the paths here.
I guess that would be, it was told to me that it was a birth chart, but that makes sense too, because my story of being in the wormhole is for a birth. It's like when you bring a soul on planet, you take a soul off planet. This is the way that you travel.
And isn't it interesting that that picture is from your grandmother and you had this amazing birth story?
It's kind of weird.
And it's a birth chart.
Yes.
Right? There's no mistakes here.
Yeah, I mean, it could be depicting like other lives too,
Mhm.
as you're traveling through the Merkaba, having all these different experiences, and you get to see all your lives, and you have the yin and the yang here of the faces. These little faces one is very menacing, and one is very just like, I don't know what's going on. The other one's like,
Mhm.
It's very interesting little piece of artwork.
And I do want to also mention your Merkaba is a very individual, personal thing. When I was a kid, I had no idea what a Merkaba was, like an actual, like the label for it, the name of it. But when I was a kid, I was absolutely 100% traveling inside of what I considered to be an invisible vehicle. And when I would fly in that thing, I could fly all over the place. And it wasn't until I was very aware that, oh my God, I'm flying, that I would automatically get myself back into my body, and I would throw my arms out like I was falling into the bed, like, whoa, that was a landing. And it would wake me up.
I've done that exact thing before.
That's so cool.
That's
I'd have control of the landing when I was a kid.
Coming in hot.
Exactly.
I
But
always
for me,
head
it
for
was in-
trees if I'm outside. If I'm outside, I always head for trees because I feel like it'll soften my landing.
There you go.
Nice. Now, see, that just reminds me of the other movie, Contact, with
Oh.
Jodie Foster. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that was a great movie. Gosh,
You know what my answer's gonna be?
You didn't see
I
it?
didn't see it.
yeah, with Jodie Foster.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Oh my God, it's incredible. It's very
A long time for a movie. Okay.
you have got to watch that.
Okay,
movie.
I need to
You
say
got
this
that.
really fast, okay?
Yes.
For the audience especially.
Yes.
I am a galactic shaman because of my experience, my personal experiences being off planet and communicating with other worldly beings and ETs, and how I know to use my consciousness for healing and for travel and for all the things, and teaching other people how to access their multidimensional, fully activated self. Okay. I just have not seen all of these Hollywood movies that are also depicting some of these things, which also just kind of tells me my life experiences are very authentic.
You're on
and
point.
Not
Yeah.
influenced by Hollywood in any way.
Right.
So-
Yes. No, you're on point. You're on point. Yeah, that movie's very interesting because they build this machine and they sort of send her off to time travel, and she doesn't go anywhere.
Oh, Okay.
But in her experience,
She does.
she goes somewhere.
Okay.
And they're all like, no, you didn't go anywhere. And the machine broke. And she was like, oh no, I was gone. Like I saw this and I saw that. And she's recounting all this stuff and everyone thinks she's crazy and making it up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of
Very
interesting.
interesting.
Kind of interesting, but that's kind of how it is when you're in the
One
Merkaba,
more
right?
movie on the list.
Well, you got to add one more to the list, and that's Interstellar. You have to. Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey. It's so
Is
good
it McConaughey?
because it does this thing, just how it visually describes him moving through dimensions and time. They're showing him basically in cells of the stories of time, and he's basically looking at all of those stories, trying to find the right one to get back into. It's very, very interesting.
Huh. Okay. And I'm only
That's
going to watch that
interesting.
one because you're telling me about it, because I'm not a huge Matthew McConaughey fan. So
Oh,
I will watch it because you're telling me to.
Yeah. I mean, I really started down the movie path when, you know, I was in New York wanting to be an actress and I became a SAG actress. And then I just was into movies. I just think they're really interesting. And then of course I found out about the programming and then I doubled down on my movie watching because I was so intent on finding the programming. Where is it? I want to see it. I want to see why and how they're doing it.
Are you talking about like subliminal type messages or things happening in the background of movies? And what kind of programming are we talking about?
I'm talking about the divisive programming of humanity that keeps people
Diabolical division.
arguing the division. Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I really started to study movies, and we can have like a whole other conversation about that because I go deep on that. But I like to see everything that comes out and really just break it down, put it in the melting pot, stir it around, alchemize it, pull out the gold, and like see what's there. Because I think it's just really fascinating.
Well, I think a lot of disclosure comes out in the movies nowadays, it seems like.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. I mean that movie about the contact with Jodie Foster, that was a long time ago. What was that, 80s?
Oh, yeah, or late 80s,
No.
maybe.
Late 80s.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, late 80s. And I remember, you know, people are like, oh, science fiction. And I hadn't actually had my experience yet. But when I did have my actual experience, I was like, oh, hey, that's real.
Mm-hmm.
That's not science fiction.
Right.
And then all the science fiction I started looking at in a very different light.
Right. It's just when you have
Disclosure.
Yeah.
when there's the possibility of other realities, really anything's possible. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like anything is possible.
Well, and they talk about, I can go off on movies for a long time, especially Disney, right? Because
lots of
Disney is
programming in that.
supposed to be the most diabolical programming, and yet you watch some of these Disney movies and they're just so sweet. And you
Are
wonder
they?
Until you see what's happening in the background.
how you know, I mean, Nemo is just so great. Of that, I'm not sure that was Disney, but Moana's Disney. I mean, that was great how she plays
Well,
with the
I
ocean.
don't know that we can really say the same thing about the newer Disney movies as we can about the classic ones, right?
We can.
Because I think the classic ones are the ones they were really talking about with the subliminal messages.
There are subliminal messages in the older ones, which are not in the newer ones, but the message is still the same.
Mhm.
And that is part of the overculture of all movies, really. And that is the forces of good and evil.
Yeah.
That I'm good and you're bad, and we're gonna have to fight.
And they always kill off the mother.
Yeah. There's a lot of trauma, and there's that the forces of good and evil. That battle is really divisive, because if you are following the path of service, then your job is to love everything.
But it's
That's how you
also-
alchemize it. But if you're fighting, you can't, if you're the good one and you're called to fight evil, what are
But
you doing? You're becoming a fighter. It's slippery slope.
there's no story though if you don't have
Conflict.
the contrast.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
that's where the story comes in. Is
yeah, for sure.
contrast.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So that's why I watch all the movies.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for listening to us go on and on about movies and other things today. So this is Interstellar Chats, and we love having you here. Please subscribe, share with your friends and family. We love having you. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you on the next episode.
See you in the Merkaba.